So up until last week, this bill, HB127, was actually a bill to give teachers a couple of extra days sick time. It was one that was bipartisan, everybody could have supported. But the Republicans decided that they wanted to take that away from teachers and put on this DEI bill, supposedly, was this called a DEI bill, which is really taking us back to prior days of discrimination. So let's kind of get into the weeds for a second. One of the things that we talked about was our amendments were not germane. They were very germane, and they were also did not create a substitute. Of all the amendments we had, all we did was try to add to this bill and actually make it something that all Georgians could actually kind of work through. But they didn't want to do that. Now the real deal of all of this. This bill takes us back. This is a sad day for the Georgia State Senate, one of the saddest I've ever been in 10 years, quite frankly. We heard one of my colleagues, Senator Lucas, talk about the fact what he grew up with, what he's dealt with. Senator Mangum, others, Nan Orrock, others have fought the civil rights movement. And here we are again fighting the same movement again. And it's really a travesty that we would be here doing these particular fights. And I also believe, and I firmly believe this, and one of the things I said in the well is they were afraid of those amendments that actually talked about slavery and actually talked about the Confederate States of America, because they could not vote on those particular amendments. One basically saying that slavery was a cause of the Civil War. They were afraid to vote on that. So I want you to talk about people having fear. The Republican Party today was afraid to say that slavery actually was instrumental to the Civil War. They were afraid today to say the Confederate States of America actually was a rebellion set of states. They were afraid of that. That's what they were afraid of today. So mark that in your notes. That is the key. That is your takeaway from this. The Republican Party of Georgia was afraid to actually condemn slavery. The Republican Party of Georgia was afraid to actually condemn the Confederate States of America, and that's why they made that motion, and that's why the Lieutenant Governor said, we don't want to do this anymore. But that's exactly what was going on. I also want you to make note of this. This caucus was prepared to fight for the next 5-6 hours, whatever it was going to take to either defeat this bill or make it better. We were going to make sure that that took place. We were not going to be afraid of that fight. We were ready, and yet that was taken from us. So I want the people of Georgia to know that tonight was the night that your Democratic caucus stood up for all people of Georgia. Because this doesn't represent the people of Georgia, but tonight was the night the Republican Party said they're going to take Georgia backwards to days where people did not have full rights. And that's exactly what it was. It cannot be any clearer than that. One particular party, the Democratic Party, said we want to move forward as far as race relations is concerned, as far as gender relations are concerned. Another party said we're going to go backwards. And this state's going to refuse to do that. And we're going to continue to fight. And this fight will continue over the next months into next year too, without taking any questions. And I'll go ahead.
I was going to say, you kind of touched on it, but what are your thoughts about them shutting down even the debate of your amendment?
First one was when they wanted to actually do the motion to resolve debate to begin with. So that's already tells you right there. They did not want to actually debate this particular bill. This is a bill basically about human rights. That they basically said, look, after a couple of speakers, we want to resolve the debate. That is a travesty. That in itself is a travesty. This is a bill that talks about supposedly reverse discrimination, taking away basic human rights from people. And after 2 speakers, they were willing to say, we don't want to hear anymore. Also, it's a travesty. The fact, look at what time this bill even came up. This should be one of the first bills that we tried to tackle so we could have a true, honest hearing about this particular bill. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to do it in the dead of night, hopefully try to sneak it through. But we were ready, and we were going to make sure we fought against it. So number one, it came up at a time they were trying to hide this particular bill. They aren't proud of this particular bill, but they voted for it, and they're stuck with it, and we're going to hang the next with it, the fact that they're not ever going to forget what they did to Georgia tonight.
This bill never had one person speak and testify at the committee in favor of this bill.
That's exactly right. They were shut down. The shutdown is continued tonight. And this is not hyperbole. When you read this bill, when you heard what the senator from the 23rd talked about, people are not qualified. How dare anybody say that? As I said in the well, you're talking about over 450 years before the first African-American law student was allowed into law school. First African-American was allowed into medical school. 450 years. And somebody dares talk about qualification in that situation where we've been locked out of actually any opportunities that existed within this state and within this nation. And to stand up there and say that people may not be qualified to be where they are today is just sickening, quite frankly. And we weren't going to tolerate it. We're going to continue to fight it. And as I said, this is what this party will be, the Republican Party will be known from this point forward, as a party that wanted to take us backwards.
Mr. Leader, do you agree with the Lieutenant Governor's ruling of germaneness?
It was trying to say that we were trying to create a committee substitute. And to do that, you're really trying to change the whole bill. Really, we were just trying to add a couple of things to the bill. One of the things that we were talking about was that DEI would not mean that you cannot say that slavery was caused by, the Civil War was caused by slavery. Why would you not want to add that to that particular bill? So you can say that, look, when you're teaching DEI, one of the things that would not be excluded, because they're trying to exclude a lot of things, is the concept that slavery actually was a contributing factor to the Civil War. Another thing would be, hey, you got to talk about evolution. They didn't want to talk about that. So those are the things that we actually were talking about. We were not necessarily trying to substitute this bill, make no mistake. We were trying to add to it to make sure we clarified what could and could not be taught within our classrooms so we can continue to have robust and open classrooms. That was the key. They don't want to do that. They don't want to continue to have open and robust classrooms. As I said, they want to continue to pull us backwards, and we're just not going to stand for that anymore.
Today we also saw Democrats in the House walk out during a vote over medical treatments for prisoners in the state of Georgia prison system. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the limitations that Democrats have in pushing back on some of these bills, the strategies that you're trying to employ here at the end of session to do that when you don't have a lot of tools at your disposal, and any lessons you learned from these new strategies.
Well, one of the things the lesson we always have known, our tools are right here, these 23 folks. That's our tool. Our tool is to make sure we push the envelope and make sure we stand up for the people of Georgia. So we've always had that tool. There may be certain strategies here and there, but these amendments were not necessarily a strategy. I believe in these amendments. I believe we want to make sure what could and could not be taught. And so that's why you didn't see a walkout. You saw us ready to fight. And that's exactly what we're ready to do. And we were going to do that tonight, but the Republicans didn't want to do that. That was the key.
What are you and other Democrats planning to do to mitigate what you argue are the detrimental effects of this bill if it gets passed?
Oh, there's no doubt it's going to court, and most of it will most likely be declared unconstitutional. Absolutely, it's going to be struck down. Many DEI programs have already been, many of these kind of laws have already been struck down. Many of these DEI laws that come about, they've been struck down. So there certainly will be court procedures that will take place. Once again, wasting taxpayer dollars because they realize that a lot of these parts are going to be declared unconstitutional. So just wasting taxpayer dollars. But 100%, we will be fighting this in court, and we expect to win too.
And and elections are coming up.
And elections are coming up, that's right.
You'll see the results of this, the measures that they took tonight are going to be showing up when people turn out to vote.
Senator Harbison, when was the last time you would say you saw 20 amendments presented on a bill?
Senator Harbison.
I can't remember, but it probably has happened, but it's beyond my memory right now. And that's over 3 decades. And that's just uncanny in the light of the fact that the passion behind this effort, the very fact that we were fighting for a legacy of civil rights that we inherited from the 1960s and beyond, and this was sort of squashed in the face of the disembowelment of those amendments.
And of course, we've never probably seen a bill like this probably for the last like 20 years or so, quite frankly. A bill that actually tries to restrict the rights of African Americans, women, also LGBTQ. We haven't seen a bill this comprehensive that basically says you're not included in Georgia. So this is a different type of bill also. So it has to have different type of consequences to
And
it.
a complete violation of academic freedom and freedom of speech.
If Trump wasn't elected, this bill we wouldn't be discussing tonight. We would be talking about it. And that's the reason we are here tonight.
At the committee meeting, there were at least 15 people who had signed up to speak on this bill, and they would not allow them to. They closed everything like they did tonight with us. They had no way of saying anything. I asked for what is this going to cost us? They told me I shouldn't ask. It's no fiscal note required. However, it's going to cost a lot of money. So where's the money going to come?
That's exactly right. So what you see here is a unified caucus against this particular bill. We've been a unified all session. We'll continue to do that after session 2. So I would say to people of Georgia, the fight will continue. It's going to be in the courthouse. The fight now goes to the courthouse. But the fight, that's right. But the fight will also continue.
And the ballot box and the courthouse.
And the fight also will continue at the ballot box too. That's going to be the next key.
Box.
Absolutely.
That's
We need
right.
to take the fight to the governor.
There you go. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.